Why do some people win and others lose? Why do those who are trying so hard sometimes seem to get the crappy end of the stick, and those who barely lift a finger, don't really care, live their life all willy-nilly, seem to surge ahead? What's going on with that? Today, we're going to talk about that in this episode of Home on Revolution podcast. So, you may have noticed around you, and you may have noticed even in the Bible, where it says that the sun will shine on the unjust, the rain will rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. And of course, since it says that's happening in the Bible, it is no surprise to us as Christians that we know that that is what's going on. But upon taking a closer look at it and seeing if there really is any underlying reason, any lesson that we can glean from the actions of these people, maybe there is something more to it that we're not really noticing off the bat. So, when you look at someone and you see they're being mega successful, they financially successful, extremely happy, whatever, well to do in any and all areas of their life, right? Because to me, so success is holistic, and that's a huge thing for me is like there's so many people that think I want to be successful and they're just talking about money. But then when they become financially successful and they get all the way to the top of that mountain, they're standing there alone and they've left their families in the dust while they pursued these huge goals, these huge dreams, and they just dove into that and they forgot about every other area of their life. Or maybe their health has declined because they're so busy creating this wealth that they're not exercising or eating properly, whatever it is, right? Or vice versa. Maybe there's someone that's like, well, they're completely so obsessed with what they're eating to a fault where they're just completely freaking out about every single ingredient. And I'm not, listen, I understand that there is a lot of trash going in our food nowadays. I could write a whole book on just that. But I also understand that we have to do what we can with the knowledge that we have and pray about it and trust God to handle the rest. But what if somebody's super duper hyper focused on what they're eating, what supplement, everything at all times, and that's all they can focus on. And then they're struggling financially because they're buying organic everything and the best of everything, right? And they're going broke doing so. And they don't have time to create wealth, or they don't have time to spend time with their family because they're so busy menu planning. I don't, there's these extremes that we can lean to, right? And it's like, of course, we would love to have balance, but balance is really a farce. Balance is not realistic, especially not long term, right? So it's like a constant teetering. So there is a balance of sorts, but it's always the ebbs and flows of life because we can't always, there's seasons, right? So sometimes we do focus on our health more than other times. Sometimes we are spending more time with our family, especially when our children are little and we're able to do that. Sometimes we do focus more on our business. Maybe we have a book that's about to be published or a deadline for something that we're trying to do, and we're really just hustling and grinding to get it done and burning the candle at both ends, burning the midnight oil, whatever. So, of course, there are these seasons for things, but in general, you look at someone who's holistically successful and you think, how did they get there, right? And generally, it's someone who has put in the time, effort, and work. But what about those people who are struggling, actually struggling in one or more areas of life? But they are putting in so much work that they're absolutely exhausted. And maybe that's you today. Maybe you're listening to this and you're shaking your head and you're saying, that is me. I am absolutely worn out, drained, exhausted, tired, done in every possible way, mentally, physically, spiritually, everything. I'm just so burnt out. And why is it that I'm not further in life? Why is it that I'm not where I want to be? Because it's not a matter of trying hard or not, right? I used to think that if you were the hardest worker, you deserved the biggest prize, right? You are pushing ahead, you're a good person, you're working really hard, you deserved to make enough money to support your family and maybe even do some nice things that you want. And I believed that with all my heart. And as a general rule, deep down in, I still believe that that should be the way things are, but we can't live on shoulds, unfortunately. And so I heard Tony Robbins in 2023. I did one of his, I think it was Unleash the Power Within. And something he said really stuck with me. And he got this from Jim Rohn, I believe, because after reading more into Jim Rohn, I believe this is one of his philosophies. And who knows, maybe he got it from someone else as well. It doesn't really matter. But what he said is it's not how hard you're working because and this ties in with a lot of what I've been talking about, right? Myron Golden even says it's like if you're physically working physical labor job, it's not enough. That is a limited resource. Your physical muscle, your time, those are all limited resources. You're not going to be able to create abundance from that, unfortunately. It's the level of value that you are able to provide in the marketplace, not to God, not to your family. None of that is what I'm talking about here. Of course, you're valuable in all those areas, but the level of value you're able to provide to the marketplace, right? So, unfortunately, someone who is working a physical labor job or a doer, they're not bringing as much value because they don't have that much leverage. It's just them doing the physical work in a time constraint. So we have to figure out the people who are really surging ahead, especially in this technological age where AI is honestly taking over a lot of jobs, or at least helping people do their jobs more efficiently. How are they able to create this leverage, right? And that's what we need to look into. And it's going to look different depending on what you're trying to do. But there are a lot of ways that we can utilize technology, AI, and as much as it pains me to say that, because I really am not a fan, I don't love excessive screen time with kids. I don't like staring at the screen myself, but it's just a matter of the world that we live in, and we either roll with it or we get rolled on. So, the thing here today is, of course, you need to create that leverage, but I believe mindset is also, and again, this is no surprise if you've listened to me talk before, mindset is everything. Belief is everything. If you don't have the belief in yourself, obviously you're going to struggle. But more than just that, if you don't have the grit and the tenacity to understand that you need to use these technologies and all these things to your advantage to help you, you're going to be struggling, and you have to be willing to adapt and change and grow and learn new things and try new things if you really want to be successful in life. And at the end of the day, I think that's what it's all about. Being open and being willing to say, look, the world is changing and I have to change with it and adapt with it and learn these new ways that I can get leverage and free up my time and create more success, more wealth, more health, more holistic success overall, faster and better. And I think that's what it's all about. So let me know what you thought of this episode, please. I would love to hear feedback, and I will catch you on the next episode.